Hi, welcome back to the first episode of Blockbuster Blockheads. Today we're gonna break down The Wizard of Oz. So, The Wizard of Oz is a movie from really long ago, and let's just get down to the brass tacks here. So first, it starts out in boring Kansas. And I know Kansas is boring because I've been there. I've been there a few times, and it's really boring. So everything's in black and white. And then a tornado comes. And tornadoes are common in Kansas, so the story is really believable. And the main character, Dorothy, she's in Kansas, and she gets picked up by the tornado, and weird things happen. It's crazy. You should just... You've never been in a tornado, probably, if you're watching this, so let me tell you, it's pretty crazy. So she lands in the color land, I think the land of the color, and she becomes a murderer. But it's okay, because nobody liked the person she killed, so she gets away with it, just like real life. And then, you know what you do when you kill someone? You steal their shoes. That's the first thing you do every single time you kill someone. I learned that from the Civil War. You just take their shoes and you put them on, and everybody's jealous of you, and they try to get your shoes back. So Dorothy's walking around with her dog, Toto, and everyone's jealous of her shoes. So she's just trying to find a way back home to Kansas, but there's this other crazy lady who's like, "Give me your shoes, Dorothy." And she's like, "Nah, man, these are legally my shoes because I killed the previous owner, and the legally binding contract when you kill someone means that you get their shoes." And then the witch sends monkeys at some point to steal back the shoes, except Dorothy befriends 3 people. One of them doesn't have a brain, one of them doesn't have a heart, and the third one's a little bitch. So she's walking around, and they sing songs. I think there's like 3 or 4 songs in this movie, maybe more, who knows. And then she dumps a bucket of water on the crazy lady with the shoe stealer, the person trying to steal her shoes. And then the Wizard of Oz. She meets the Wizard of Oz, and the Wizard of Oz turns out to be a crazy dude behind a screen. And he goes, "You, Mr. Heartless, I'm gonna give you the power of the Keyblades." And goes to the person without a brain and goes, the brain was the friends you made along the way. And then goes to the lion, and the lion goes, "I'm a coward." And he goes, "But what if you weren't?" And then the lion goes, "You're right." And then Toto's also there. He's there throughout the whole movie, except for I think he gets taken one time, maybe. Who knows? It's Liam Neeson is in this movie. So then Dorothy goes home, and then it's black and white again because she's back in boring Kansas. And that's okay. Now the second part of this is we're gonna get some famous some professional critics to review this movie. Here's their part. One of the most overrated films ever made. I have to rain on the Oz parade here. For the life of me, I cannot fathom why this film is so revered. And I know my films. The 1939 Wizard of Oz has to be the most annoying, obnoxious, and overrated classic and great film ever made. The acting in Oz is horrible. The sets completely unrealistic, always looking like they're indeed on the soundstage instead of looking anything remotely close to real. Only Tim Burton syndrome. The characters are all annoying. Really, this is probably the most in-your-face, obnoxious film ever. If it didn't strain so hard to be a good film, this may have actually been a decent B-film. An early cheesy delight along the lines of countless 50s and 60s cheesy sci-fi, horror, and fantasy films. But because Oz thinks a lot more of itself than it really should, it comes across as a bloated albatross of a pathetic attempt at decent fantasy. Even the supposed great song, Over the Rainbow, is completely overrated. It's a horrible, horrible song, completely unmelodic and painful to the ears. The one lone bright spot in the whole film is the Wicked Witch, with Margaret Hamilton playing the role so well and clever that she easily outshines literally everything else the entire film has to offer. But hey, many people like this film, so that's the way it is. But speaking of this film in the same manner of real films like Gone with the Wind, Casablanca, and so many more is a complete joke. The Wizard of Oz is probably the worst supposed great film ever made.
Awful. Possibly the most ludicrous and terrible film ever made. I am shocked as to how people found the ridiculous, predictable, and boring plot so appealing. The fact that it has managed to get into the top 100 movies of all time speaks volumes of how little people understand or appreciate movies of the 1930s.
Stop being sick on my face. I watched this back in the day when I was in single digits and it went in one ear and out the other. I couldn't remember anything except the tornado sequence. I watched it again in my 20s and 30s, mainly at Christmas, as you're forced to do it at that time. Still, I couldn't understand all the fuss. Now, nearly 50 years old, and I can categorically state this film is awful. Yes, it is like a dream, a forgettable one, and as a fantasy, more like a bad acid trip. There is nothing heartwarming about it. Those that find that must be psychopathic. The acting is flat, including the famous Judy Garland, and the more she and the other stars overact, the flatter it becomes. None of the characters are likable or interesting, and the whole experience is like someone being sick on your face. The fairy from the north is more ugly and disgusting than the Wicked Witch of the East, and the dog Toto outacts them all. The only good part is when the tree slapped Dorothy for pinching an apple. That was the only cool thing in it. And that's only probably because you want to slap her yourself for being such a precocious non-starter.
This movie sucked. This movie sucked. It was so rubbish not even your pets would be interested. If you want to see what's inside of a baby's mind looks like, well, this here film is for you. My first problem is that the people who made it didn't know if they wanted it in color or black and white, so they used both, like we wouldn't notice. Well, I noticed, and I thought it was rubbish. The little town with all those children was actually played by grown men. It's stupid to think we believe they're children. Another thing that I hated was that it's telling a story about 4 people, and 3 of them aren't even real. One is a bear, one is a scarecrow, and one's a robot. All they do is jump around and sing weird songs at each other like morons. Not even a baby would enjoy this, so please don't try making one watch it, no matter who it belongs to.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. The critics all agree. This film, The Wizard of Oz, gets 1 out of 10 stars. Tune in next time where we review and give you a plot synopsis of a different movie. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to like, favorite, upvote, comment, and subscribe and follow. And I just want someone to watch my videos. Okay, bye!